Good morning again, and welcome to our first roundtable discussion for the morning. And we're going to be looking at skills and employability for the future. For those who were there at the opening with Sir Ed and Jill Schofield from the university, skills and employability in Kingston is going to play a major role in how we kind of move out of this period. Kingston is very blessed with having really first-class education facilities and organisations trying to support our students through school and going into higher learning and into the business world. So I'm absolutely delighted that we have some really kind of great leaders in their particular fields in the education sector. I think we've actually just accidentally lost one Catherine. We're going to be in an interesting position of having 3 Catherines on this round table. So I'm going to leave this to Chris Hirsch, who is going to facilitate the discussions here. And I think this is going to be really interesting. This is an area which doesn't often get kind of discussed in an open forum like this. Everybody's coming from a slightly different point and angle. So I hope you enjoy this, and I leave this in the very capable hands of Chris Hirsch. Thank you so much, and thank you to our guests here this morning. Take care. Bye-bye.
Thanks, Forbes. Well, I think we're going to start with everyone giving a quick introduction, just to say sort of what they do and who they do it for. So can I ask Anthony just to say a bit about yourself, please?
Yeah, I'm the careers coordinator at Kingston Grammar School, also the CDI lead on higher education.
Excellent, thanks Anthony. And Catherine Fenwick.
Oh, good morning everyone. Hi, my name's Catherine Fenwick. I'm Director of AIM Higher London. We're an organisation that works with schools, colleges and universities across London, encouraging those from underrepresented groups to go on to higher level skills. So delighted to be here this morning.
Fantastic, thank you. And Catherine Howard, if you would also.
Hello, good morning. My name is Catherine and I'm the Assistant Principal at Kingston College. Kingston College is part of the South Thames Colleges group, and I have responsibility for 16 to 19 across that group as well. So we are, very much looking at employability skills for that cohort and growth and the future of jobs. So I'm very excited about the conversation today.
Thank you. Andrew.
Hi, my name is Andrew Harland. I'm the Business Engagement Manager for Kingston Workmatch. We offer a no-cost recruitment service to businesses of Kingston, and then we support residents of Kingston to access local jobs.
Brilliant, brilliant. And Catherine Young, please.
Good morning, everybody. So my name is Catherine Young. I'm the Career Lead at the Kingston Academy, which is a non-selective mixed state school in North Kingston.
Thank you. And finally, Ali Orr.
Good morning, Chris. Good morning, everyone. Yeah, my name's Ali. I am the Head of Graduate Outcomes and Employability at Kingston University. And so I look after our careers and employability provision, both within the curriculum and out with the curriculum.
Brilliant. Now, we'll get started. And there always has to be someone that has to answer the first question. And Catherine Howitt, it's going to be you with your wealth of experience. I don't remember from last year, one of the things of our last year's online exhibition, we realized that digital poverty was going to be a huge problem, or we thought it was going to be. And now, a year on, I'd love to know what the experience has been regarding digital poverty and learning.
It has been really interesting. It's been really eye-opening, actually, for us. I think there's always sort of been this idea that young people are sort of tech savvy and they're all over it. And actually, this whole process has really highlighted to us that actually there is this real disparity, and it's been a real concern. But one of the benefits, I guess, of that is it has made us really be able to sort of pinpoint and identify, who actually does need the support and help. And so it's really been enabled us to sort of make sure they can get the laptops that they need. Right early on, we were having, young people on their phones, trying to kind of go down to sort of be sitting near stations where they could get connectivity, which was actually turned out to be a much bigger issue for us than the hardware itself. So and just trying to kind of get on and do their assignments sitting in the cold outside stations. I mean, it was really heartbreaking, actually. But we have been able to kind of pick up on that stuff. We have been able to get our students, and across nationally, there's been a big push to get students IT. And like I said, connectivity has been one of our biggest challenges. And certainly in this sort of phase of the lockdown, we've been able to bring a lot more students into our buildings, and where they've really struggled with that. And also, but some of the mobile phone providers have stepped up a lot more to kind of give deals for learners to kind of help with some of that sort of stuff. That's really been a concern. But I mean, access is one thing, but I think also, for us around kind of digital poverty and connectivity, and kind of coming on to this kind of big up sort of skilling, and this kind of big drive to get people onto these digital platforms. There's also been other concerns around risk, and and sort of young people becoming more exposed to sort of some of those dangers on those platforms. So we've had to be sort of rapidly trying to make sure that we're skilling them to be able to be safe in those environments. So getting them those skills, getting them the platforms, getting them the connectivity, and making sure they're safe while they're in it.
That's fascinating. So has that been other people's experiences, especially with younger students and the safety aspect? Has anyone got any comments on that, or on digital poverty in general?
Yeah, I mean,
so with the safety aspect, sorry, go on.
No, go on, you go.
So with the safety aspects, I mean, it has come through nationally for us. We've been to other platforms, and people are sort of saying that there is just a concern around sort of younger people being more exposed to crime and that sort of thing. So we need to make sure, like I said, we've been upskilling them to be safe. Sorry, Catherine Young wanted to say something.
Yeah, I was just going to say, from a university perspective, very similar in terms of how many of our students struggle both with access to devices, many of them working on mobile phones, as you said at the very start. But even where we had a massive injection of support in terms of hardware, those connectivity issues really persisting, and then actually how that then plays out both sort of not just in terms of educational terms, but then in terms of seeking employment opportunities, employers moving all of their recruitment online, and students who are living at home with very little personal space often, and really struggling to have a space both that's sort of suitable for learning, but then also for for those recruitment and assessment activities as well.
So are we saying also there's the issue of not just lack of equipment, but places to use it as well, especially when talking to employers?
Absolutely.
I'd also heard anecdotally, I haven't come across this, that a lot of students don't like to use a screen because they don't want to show where they are. Is that, again, other people's experience?
Yeah, I would say that's something that we certainly experienced during both lockdowns. We had students that weren't happy to turn their camera on because they didn't want their other peers in their class seeing their environment that they were in. But whilst we were able to provide a lot of devices, we also opened up the doors here to have students, they actually came in, that weren't able to connect. So maybe their broadband width at home wasn't great enough for their parents to be working, maybe other siblings, or they just didn't have that space to learn. So that was something that we tried to offer up for students that were struggling to, whilst they had a device, they just couldn't access the education that we were providing for them.
Do you think actually that this has resulted in a better understanding of student circumstances?
Well,
absolutely,
it has for us. Found that some
really has, yeah. Right, Anthony.
Yeah, we just found that some students who were excluded, felt excluded within the mainstream in terms of like mental health and learning difficulties, often found themselves much more in a comfortable position to learn and engage when they were at home. But I just don't know what to extent that was, and obviously where they've got the access to the right computer and everything like that. So that was a surprise positive.
I'm going to move the conversation on now, if that's all right with you, and just address a question first to Andrew, but possibly also Ali would have an input on this. Obviously, Kingston has suffered quite badly in terms of unemployment because of the heavy reliance on retail. And so there is going to be a huge requirement, I think, for retraining, but also finding job opportunities. And Andrew, I wondered if you could tell the rest of the panel, but also people listening, about how they can access your services and where you fit in with the other help.
Yeah, thank you. And again, it'd be great to get the input across the board as well. Just to reflect a little bit on the last year in respect to, as you mentioned, sort of unemployment and claimants in the borough. There's been some very seismic shifts in respect to new claimants, with the 18 to 24 groups up over 170% in terms of claimants. The largest group is actually the 25 to 49s, plus 180%, and then followed by the 50 plus at 150% increase. So quite wide increases across the board. Peak unemployment has varied per age group. We've seen some of the larger groups, so the 25 to 49s in and around October, November time last year. And then the 50 plus actually more so now, interestingly. So it's actually varied per age group about the peak of claimants in those periods. For Kingston, you're absolutely right. It's an interesting period with Restart at the moment in terms of the roadmap and the economy, because we're finding there's a huge amount of traction on the high streets with hospitality and retail where it's been able to survive, which is extremely important for locations that have such a importance for tourism and the visitor economy, such as Kingston. And there has been a marked increase in job openings even in the last 2 weeks as the high streets have begun to recover. So that's extremely important. Of course, that very much focuses on 2 to 3 sectors, but two to three very important sectors for the borough. For ourselves, we're very new to Kingston, so the Workmatch service has been brought into Kingston from our existing world in Wandsworth and Richmond, and we've been here since October, November last year. But already we've found that we've been engaging quite a wide range of residents with a wide range of backgrounds and skill sets. So rather than those that have been I don't know, more generally in need of employment support, we found people approaching us that have never considered or decided to utilize a local employment service previously. We're also finding that local residents are extremely interested in accessing local jobs. It's ever more important. It's much more sustainable, which is a really good thing in terms of the green agenda, but also in respect to pandemic, the willingness to not have to travel out of the borough, out of the county, into central London is actually significantly high as well. So for me, there's a huge advantage to local businesses across all sectors because we've got an active talent pool of local residents that never would have considered working locally necessarily previously. And that's across the age groups, that's across the skills, and experience. And also it's been really interesting to meet residents that are very highly skilled, but not also to forget those residents that were already on the claimant register, already considered unemployed, who are now much further down the line and actually arguably much more behind those that have recently registered. And there must be real focus on offering accessible services to everybody that's been I guess recently considered as unemployed.
Thank you for that, Andy. So it sounds from what you're saying that there are some positive signs, but equally there's some real issues to still crack, the original issues, if you like. And Ali, how are you finding in terms of your students and the job market?
Yeah, I mean, big challenges as I think Andrew has outlined. You sort of see the statistics. The graduates have been slightly insulated from the worst effects of it compared to the 18-24 to 24 group as a whole, but that hasn't been felt equally by all graduates. And I think a highly diverse community that we are at Kingston, you're very much aware that nationally the figure of unemployment among Black graduates is at 33%, which is, you know, incredibly concerning. We sort of shifted quite rapidly last April our priorities in terms of creating opportunities for employment among our students and graduates. And so we sort of ran two major programs, a graduate internship program, which we'll be repeating this year, created 100 opportunities for our graduates, fully funded, working with local SMEs, and a sort of student consultancy program which ran through the year, because actually what we saw over the summer was the significant decrease in placement and work experience opportunities, which then feeds into further down the line your sort of employment prospects. So we were able to double the amount of student consultancy opportunities that we were able to offer to our students. But it remains a really challenging environment. It remains a really challenging picture for our students to go out into. We're putting on an additional graduate transition program, so a 3-week program to support our graduates over the summer, on top of the work that we've been doing through the year, to help ease their path into employment, really. But I think just in terms of, again, the sort of economic recovery for the borough is how we work hand in hand going forward, because we have a huge opportunity with over 3,000 graduates each year, plus our postgraduate provision, to really inject those skills and retain those skills within the borough and within the local area.
That's brilliant, thank you. And there are a couple of points there that you made that I'll come to you in a second, Andrew. Absolutely. A couple of points you made that I want to try and address later, which is this question of paid internships and work experience through all levels, and how we can address that. And so thank you for bringing that up now, but I hope we can cover that a bit more later. Andrew, sorry, you had a point.
No, it's okay. I noticed we have a few questions in the chat, so I just wanted to raise those. I'll happily read them out to everyone. Well, I think that there's.
I think, Andrew, if we some of them we'll be covering later on.
Okay, that's great.
And I'll try and build those in. Actually, if I could say to the audience, I will try and get to all the questions, but we're very, very limited on time. We will answer the questions afterwards individually, and we'll make sure they're directed to the right person. But I will try and include them. But it may well be that they get covered anyway. So thank you for that. Right, I'd like to now to speak to Catherine Fennick, and really the thing I wanted to find out about is the recent student experience and what resilience and what vulnerabilities have come out of it. I know it's a massive topic, so I'd be interested if everyone could think of maybe one or two things which are positive, as well as the vulnerabilities of this last year.
Yeah, I think it's a really good question, because I think there's a lot of we can think negatively, can't we, about how people have been affected, but actually I think there have been a lot of positives in terms of the way in which people have pivoted, having to be agile. And I think quite often we do younger people a disservice, but their resilience is phenomenal, and their ability to change to circumstances, I think, is absolutely incredible. So I do think that out of this lockdown, one of the big things that has arisen is that young people have been able to adjust. And I think it's sort of reinforced the fact that within the workplace, we know there aren't jobs for life. That hasn't been around for a long, long time. But this ability to be agile, to pivot, and to adapt to the circumstances is something that has really shone through. I mean, certainly in terms of working with graduates, I think these sort of and obviously places like Kingston University have facilitated that, the ability for young people to bring in entrepreneurial skills, and to think about part-time work and the way in which they can enter into the employment sector in a bit of a different way. than perhaps they might have done traditionally. And I think that's something really quite exciting and something that we can build on. Often when we're working with young people, and we work right from year 7 right the way through to graduates, there can be a disconnect between the professionals working with those young people and what they think they want and what the young people want themselves. So this, you know, when we speak to young people, many of them, even as young as Key Stage 3, it's entrepreneurial skills that they're really interested in. They're already starting their side hustles. You know, there are things going on in addition to full-time study that people can profit from. And I don't just mean financially, but I mean in terms of the skills that they acquire. So I think in terms of you know, the lockdown, that's something that's really become visible in the young people that we've been working with. Resilience, one of the big things that we've been really pushing as well for our young people is curiosity, is to investigate, find out what's out there and be curious. And actually, by being online, perhaps, I mean, one thing that isn't lacking is the opportunities. There's a wealth of opportunities, and so many people have now put those online that one could say that perhaps it's overwhelming. So being able to navigate those opportunities and to be curious and to find out more, to look into areas that perhaps they haven't otherwise done, I think is something that's really exciting and a real positive to come out of this lockdown.
Absolutely. And again, the vulnerabilities, is there a divide growing between those that are doing well from it and those that are really struggling? Is that what we're noticing?
I think there's definitely divides. I mean, Ali already talked about BAME students. I think there are real divisions, and we certainly can't look at graduates as a homogenous group. There are definitely disparities between those that are able to access employment opportunities. You know, even with things like work experience, those that have family members that can perhaps point them in the right direction, they're obviously at an advantage. So we need to work with those that don't have those perhaps family connections, friends connections, to enable everybody to have equal opportunities. And I think that is really, really important, that we enable everybody from all backgrounds to benefit. And I think, you know, the digital platforms, things like being prevented from accessing some of these opportunities due to travel, due to costs. You know, university open days, for example, hugely expensive for many students to access. And if there's a blend and an opportunity to perhaps do both, then I think that's a positive.
Anyone else have any views on the vulnerabilities and the extra resilience? Catherine.
I think certainly I would totally, you know, agree with all of that. I mean, it's a very divided picture, but we have been so impressed by the resilience of our young people. I think that really comes up. Certainly, you know, there's some the Future of Jobs report from the Economic World Forum. You know, that idea of kind of resilience and stress tolerance and those sorts of things is so critical. But equally, you know, we do know that actually, you know, from I think it's from the Health Foundation, there was a report, Generation COVID-19, which is talking about, you know, some of the negative impacts around kind of mental health outcomes. And I think that's something, you know, we are preparing for. I'm sure everyone is really preparing now for when those things start to kind of become more apparent and as we go forwards, because I think we will be looking at those impacts in the years to come. So there's this real positivity, and I think there's so much that this generation has learned, and those skills are just been so accelerated. But I think there is this kind of this back surge which we're sort of preparing for, and we need to be there to absolutely hold our learners and the young people to help them to move beyond that, to their potential, really. So that's our sort of concern coming forwards on it.
let me move on to I don't know, Anthony, a question on this, and it's regarding the split between creative industries, or the creative degrees, and the science and the maths degrees. And I know there's been, in talking to you earlier, Anthony, a big emphasis on the sciences and the maths side of things for some while from government. And I wondered whether you feel, with the creative side of things, whether how it looks for people that are taking those creative degrees with regard to the pandemic, but equally, is there something that is lost in a workplace if everyone is either science-based or maths-based, or those hard subjects, if you like?
Yeah, that's a very interesting question, because I think we're seeing this feed through from curriculum changes a few years ago, where primary schools, they reduced the creative courses. So I think a lot of students are not having those in the curriculum. So whether they were going to choose to do them or not, the key thing is that they didn't have the opportunity. And I think you're right that the creative side is important in any skill set when you've got young people who don't get the tacit learning that they used to get doing those menial tasks in the first months and years of a job before they get noticed, build relationships. They're having to hit the ground running. So there probably some bit of poverty there in terms of perhaps students not having those, whether they're going to actually go down a creative route or not. It's interesting to hear from universities, because they're saying to schools, you know, where are all the creatives, the linguists and the humanities students? Everyone's applying for, you know, maths and science, and I think lots of schools are seeing more interest in maths, and many would believe that, you know, we need more of that. But I think that for rounded young people moving into all sorts of areas of work, those cognitive skills, creative skills. I mean, creative is important in so many jobs. It's just about how you see something, how something can be done better in your firm, and the feedback that you can give. And young people really do have to hit the ground running. This Generation Z, with all of their tech savvy, they don't have many chances to you know, get things right. They have to come in and sort of be at quite a good level. And obviously it's very positive hearing about all the work experience opportunities and the resilience building. I think that, you know, that's another area you want to talk about, but I do think there have been some new bridges crossed with virtual work experience and skill building.
Catherine Fenwick.
I think it's a really important issue to raise, actually, is about creativity and the emphasis on STEM. And I do think it should be STEAM, because I think that element of arts entering into that STEM agenda is really, really important. We've pivoted our work online, and we've been working with industry experts, and all the STEM industry experts have said how important creativity is within their industries, whether that be engineering, you know, right across the board. And I do think it's really important. And I have a real concern, two things. One, I think the way in which creative subjects have been able to be taught during the pandemic is just worrying. I just think it's such a shame, and it's through no fault of teaching staff at all. But, you know, music, for example, young people haven't been able to play the instruments online, or even when they've been back in the classroom. It's just been impossible to do practical initiatives. So I think when it comes to young people choosing their options for GCSEs, I think that will be a challenge, because young people within, you know, won't have had the experience once they get into secondary school in years 7 and 8. They haven't had that experience of learning those new subjects, which they embrace once they, you know, move from primary, they're into secondary school, and there are all these wonderful new exciting subjects which have had to be taught in a non-practical way. So that's the first thing. And of course, so many young people develop those creative interests through extracurricular activity. And again, that's been a real challenge for schools, colleges and universities to be able to deliver. The university experience is, of course, it's about gaining your degree and employment skills, etc. But one of the biggest things is about trying new extracurricular activities, mixing with new people, doing things that perhaps you wouldn't even have thought of before. You know, there's again, it coming back to those opportunities. So I think it's worrying, and I think that pipeline of young people that will be coming through from when they choose their GCSE options. I hope that there can be. I think it's a challenge for schools to encourage young people to choose those pathways when perhaps they haven't had the opportunities to start those subjects at a young age.
Ali.
Thanks. Yeah, completely agree with both Anthony and Catherine. I was just going to say, one of the things we are seeing within the universities an increasing in demand for health-related courses and things like biomedical science as a direct result, I think, of the pandemic and the impact that that's had on how we value particular career paths or professions. And I think that in itself is a real positive. But I think the related question around sort of really the playing off of value between STEM and the arts, and actually the future is all in interdisciplinary solutions, and I think that's a really important thing that we inculcate in our young people, that actually it's about how different subjects come together, how different combinations of skills are going to come together to find the solutions. So I think it's why it's really important within the university that we bring students together across different faculties to work on different projects, on grand challenges and so on, and that we have a curriculum that enables that sort of interdisciplinary approach. In engineering, creativity is so important. You know, for our creative students in the School of Art, we have a wonderful School of Art. Actually, many of the career paths that they could go into will be in other industries that they wouldn't otherwise have been exposed to without that sort of infusing of the different faculties and of the different subjects together. So that was my take on it, really.
Thank you for that, Catherine Howard. But just before you say something, I want to say we're getting some really lovely comments on the chat, and thank you for those. So they're great. We are looking at them, and hopefully we're going to bring them in, but they're much appreciated. But Catherine Howard, you had your hand up.
Yeah, I was just going to say, I mean, I totally agree with all the colleagues here. I mean, it really is so important to have not just the creative industries, but you know, as Ali was saying, having that kind of creativity within everything we do. And I think certainly looking forward into the future of jobs, you know, one thing also we know, I think, is that, you know, automation in a lot of industries has really is growing, and it will continue to grow. And actually, it's the creative jobs that kind of are set apart from that, because it's very difficult to automate, maybe in the future, very far future, but for now, it's very difficult to automate creativity. And it's those kind of jobs that will be set apart in that trend. And so there's real sort of need for that viability sort of going forward. I mean, Apple's a classic example, isn't it? I mean, they're just a tech company, but it's their designers and their creative thinkers that have really sort of pushed them forwards. And as companies are evolving themselves, you know, in these kind of really competitive markets, and new startups are kind of, you know, biting at their heels, actually it's the creative innovation and those kind of things that are really going to help across a wide range of companies to kind of really set them apart. So it's really worth thinking to that future. And also, you know, but this kind of talk around about kind of going into the roaring 20s, like when this kind of closes, what are people going to do with their money? They're going to be out there, they're going to be spending it, they're going to be going out and having fun in the entertainment industry. So I think it's so important that message doesn't get lost for our young people, and, you know, sort of to keep creativity really up there. It's really important across a wide range of areas.
Thank you, Catherine. I believe your background is in the performing arts and teaching of that. Is that right?
Yeah, a while ago, yes. And I did used to be the head of school for Creative Industries Centre at Kingston, but yes, some many years ago now.
I'm interested. Do you think that actually having the creative background does give for a different or potentially better management style? a different perspective?
That's an ask. I have to ask other people I manage. I don't know.
Well,
but I do think design thinking, you know, and sort of creative thinking and that sort of thing. I mean, you know, certainly, I mean, I feel, you know, I haven't been in any way sort of hampered by the fact that I did degrees and masters and things in degrees, and actually it's opened a wide range of opportunities for me. Those skills, it's the core skill set. Sorry, Catherine.
I think it has to be, though, doesn't it? I mean, it has to be a positive. I mean, people, you know, one of the biggest things that is going to come out of this fourth industrial revolution that we're talking about is data, and the sheer volumes of data that are needing to be analysed. If you have a creative mind to be able to present that information in different ways and in more appealing ways that appeal to more people, then surely that's of benefit. So I think, you know, it's, as Ali said, it's about this sort of interdisciplinary, isn't it? About linking subjects and how creativity links in with STEM. It's not one or the other, but they complement each other. And I'm interested, I don't know if it's time in this discussion, but interested at the school level to understand, you know, how we communicate that to young people through careers advice, to think about the subjects they're choosing, because if they're choosing them at a young age, then they're not choosing them at a young age, then they're then blocking those out so early on in their careers. Yes, you can pick them up in another way, but many young people will block out many subjects, and especially the creatives. I think they suffer. I mean, languages, we already know, are on the decline. I don't think they can decline any further. So, you know, it's quite interesting. I beg your pardon?
They're worse this year, the unions are saying, for languages. So, as you say, it can only get better. But it was this primary level reduction in, I think, is having this impact. And I think curriculum is absolutely key. That needs to change, because that's not about what children choose. It's what they're exposed to. And in those early years, they're not choosing it because I think often it's never been there or not been available enough.
I also think that the curriculum is quite, it's very narrow in terms of the choices that they can make. You know, once they have the opportunity to choose those creative subjects, it's maybe 1 or 2 in most schools. So widening that curriculum would be fantastic. But I also feel it's very much about speaking to parents. I sadly have a number of conversations with students that will say, well, my parents say that if I take art, even though I love it and I'm really good at it, that it won't lead anywhere. So it's as much about providing the skills to the students, but also echoing that to the parents, that there is a synergy, as everyone has said, between being able to problem solve from a mathematical and a scientific perspective, but using those creative subjects to think, well, what can I do with that? And I've noticed in the chat that people have referred to marketing and PR, and absolutely there's a synergy that is needed for those. And some of the marketing, the advertising companies are looking for people that have got those good data analytical skills and pairing them with an individual who is very creative, because there isn't the match in that, maybe that one person.
Thank you for that.
I think, Catherine, you said there's guidance, and I think that's the key thing, is that giving students the opportunity to have a conversation that is, you know, not being influenced by any teacher, parent, and they're set free from that. So,
Catherine, I've got a question for you. It's a quick one on the teaching methods and things that have changed over the last. This is Catherine Young. Sorry, over the last year. What things do you think are in it for the long term? You're going to keep that schools and educational institutes have learned from it?
Well, I think as a school at TKA, although my Wi-Fi keeps dropping out, so apologies, we have been a school that, when we inception of the school in 2015, it was very much a school where everybody would have a device. So we were very geared up when and the school went online very quickly in the first lockdown. Saying that, I think we have that opportunity to ensure that students that maybe aren't in school for whatever reason are still able to access Google Classroom, as we use. There's lots of different packages that people use, but nothing is a substitute for face-to-face teaching. And the skills that people get from being able to speak to a teacher and work in pairs and in groups, that is what's very important. From a careers perspective, because I'm leading on the careers side of things, I think work experience and the virtual opportunities that have been provided online have been immense. Yes, there are probably too many of them, but they have been able to reduce some of the need for students to go out and find placements in areas where they just don't have access. So, for example, students that want to be a medic, they can go and access that through virtually, which has been amazing. So I would like to think that some of those opportunities to increase widening participation in different activities could continue to go online, but I don't think that there is a substitute for some of the face-to-face as well.
Thank you. I want to pick up on something there I'm very interested in. You mentioned the work experience online, and my assumption here is, and I'm afraid this is something I don't know about, is that these are the larger organisations who are offering modules or whatever. Have you seen any of that with small, local, Kingston-based organisations?
Being very honest, no. They do. They do tend to be the larger organisations that are able to offer work experience. There are some organisations, we're actually using one of them to provide work experience virtually for all our years in 10, 11 and 12. And they go out and ask individuals if they're happy to run live events, and they could very well be people from small, medium-sized enterprises. But most of the packages that people see are the big organisations that just have the capability to be able to offer that.
Because, and Andrew, I saw you had your hand up. I just want to ask this thing and see, because I wanted to open it up now in the last few minutes, and actually, I don't know if this will work. I hope it will. I would really like you all to sort of let rip and say, what is it that you want from the business people that are listening to this that they should be doing to help you in terms of work experience, internships, but equally,
I think they have to be mutual responsibility.
Yeah, I think it's how can you help us provide this stuff? So what is it that we should be doing that we're not doing? What would be the one thing each of you would want us all to do as small organisations?
I think boldly, recognise that there is this huge resource. Students are creative, they're exciting, they want to get the experience, and it can be so beneficial to businesses. You know, but think really broadly about it. Don't be sort of, oh, I need this one little thing. It's like, you know, what do you really need that could really help your business? You know, is it someone helping you in your office? Is it someone who can, you know, come and take photos for your company? Is it someone who can help you with your online things? Is it someone, you know, who can help you if you're, you know, looking after people? What is it that you need? And come and talk. I think everyone would probably say, come and talk to the different institutions, just to see what is available, because there is a huge wealth out there and it can be so beneficial. We've helped startup companies to really kind of get off the ground, that has then resulted in jobs for our students. You know, we've helped companies that are kind of struggling a little bit with kind of their image and how they sort of think of themselves going forwards, and our design students have given them ideas and have helped them to kind of invigorate their companies. So there's so much benefit all round for it, so don't be afraid of it, even though it may feel like a little bit of work. But everyone I think would probably say that there's a lot of people there to support and help with overcoming those barriers and anxieties, but take the leap. That's what we'd say.
That's brilliant. Thank you, Catherine.
I think sometimes people think about work experience and they think it has to be a whole week's worth of experience. It doesn't have to be. A day for a student who has never had the opportunity to experience work before would be amazing if it means that they will be able to help you. They will be able to offer you maybe different insights into how you can liaise and converse with your customers, because you might be conversing with customers of the same age. They can tell you how you could best do that. So I think it's about everybody being flexible as well. Work experience could be 2 mornings. It doesn't have to be a full week. We can be flexible as a school. We just need to have be able to offer out those positions locally as well as some that are a little bit further afield.
Can I just add that a lot of the barriers in Kingston are their SMEs who literally have got goodwill but don't have the space. So I think borrow from some of these virtual opportunities would be fantastic, where you could have them in on Monday and then set something up. Everything can be done virtually. It doesn't have to be an amazing thing like SpringPod, but we've all got Zoom, and you can meet them during the week. They can have access to things, and then so they wouldn't be coming into the organisation much, but having an experience with them over a period of time.
Yeah, I think that's really important, and also the equipment. Sometimes I think, I haven't got a computer in my office, but actually we can provide the students with the computers. We can do all of that stuff. I think that's really important.
Yes, please, Catherine Fennick.
Yeah, from an Aim High point of view, we're really interested in working with obviously underrepresented groups. So it's opportunities for those that are not necessarily represented within higher education and higher level skills. And we're really interested in working with local employers, big, small, about ensuring that there is an understanding about what some of those groups of students might need in the workplace and how best to support them. So, for example, young people with special educational needs or just learning differences, and how they might be supported when they enter into the workplace. So we're very interested in having the dialogue to be able to support employers to understand what young people, the experiences they have, what they're coming in with, what support they're used to having, and how employers can help support those young people. So really interested in entering into that dialogue, both with the educational professionals and with employers.
Sorry, Ali, please.
Thanks. Yeah, I agree with everything that everyone has said. I think and particularly what Catherine Fennick was saying, we currently have a fully funded internship scheme for students with autistic spectrum conditions. So Employ Autism, which I think we'd love local businesses to work with us on to create funded work experience opportunities for that group of students and help them in developing that workplace competence, but also help you as an employer in sort of developing the understanding of what would it take to recruit a student with an autistic spectrum condition, for example. But also for us, work experiences, as Catherine Young said, not just like a sort of full week, but also thinking about how it fits into the curriculum. So things like you could help us with a live project, and we could set a whole group of students to work on that project, create some fantastic ideas to help you and your business move forward. So really such a wide diversity of ways that we can work with you and support you. So yes, great if you can offer internships and placements, but actually there are just a whole range of other ways which we'd love to engage with you.
What would you? Oh, Catherine, please, Catherine Young.
Right. And just one other thing, it's not just about work experience, it's about exciting, and I love the word, I use it as well, Catherine Fennick, the curiosity. Having somebody from a small, medium-sized enterprise that could come in and do a 20-minute talk about this is the journey that I have taken to get to the role that I'm in. This is the journey that my colleague has taken. They could be different, and then explain a little bit about the role. That just gives all students the opportunity to understand, well, I've never even heard of that role. It might be a brand new role, it might be a different role to the ones that their family, their friends do. And so those opportunities would be fantastic as well.
Thank you. I don't know if this will surprise you, maybe on my own here, but I think one of the reasons that people are reticent to offer work experience is because they're actually worried that the experience they offer won't be good enough, or that their business is not interesting enough, or that they're not successful enough. Because I think a lot of people that are in business, however long they've been in business, don't regard themselves as successes. And so it's quite, so they imagine, I think that they, you know, we as smaller businesses, you know, maybe we employ 10 people, think, well, how on earth could we possibly compete with, say, work experience at one of a huge London bank, or a this or that. And so I think a lot of firms need help, but it's not help in terms of, I mean, providing computers might be useful. It's more actually encouragement, saying, well, what you can offer is this, and it is useful. I may be completely on my own on that one, but I have a sneaking suspicion that people don't feel their experience is worth other people seeing. Please,
And I think
Catherine Fenwick first.
I think that's right. I think it's about brokering an understanding, so enabling schools, educational establishments, to be able to speak to employers, to be able to say this is what's required, and employers to have that conversation back. You know, the two-way dialogue. I mean, if we could set up a platform that allows that dialogue to happen, I think that would be fantastic, so that people understand, you know, that no, it's not a huge commitment. This, as Catherine Young has just sort of outlined, these are the interventions that are required. I think it's about an understanding and having a conversation and dialogue.
Catherine Young.
I would say, talking to the students that in previous schools I've worked at where they've been on work experience, a lot of them that have been to small, medium-sized enterprise have had a better experience than those who've been a small fish in a massive pond at one of the big organisations. They've been able to not only see what marketing do, but maybe they've worked with finance and sales, and they've had a really diverse opportunity as opposed to just understanding one particular role. Because the team is small, they've been able to work more closely with them. They've been able to really understand the skills that are needed and ask questions. Again, it's around that curiosity. If there's just a small group where you're all in one office, you begin to learn a lot more, much faster, about the different opportunities, and then begin to ask those questions because you've built those relationships quicker.
Yes, and I think something that you're all saying is it doesn't have to be a big chunk of time, but it can be smaller amounts, and some in the office and some virtually. Actually, is a big opportunity, because one of the problems that I know with work experience is if it's only done once a year, you sort of forget what you did last time. And so you have to relearn it. And it takes a lot more effort. It's no bad thing, but it just does. Whereas if it's a continual process, it's much easier to do. So therefore, the firms will be more encouraged to take on more people because it's just part of a daily thing. So actually, it benefits everyone, but it's that possibly, you've got to remember that small businesses, sorry, I'm not trying to teach you, they're not educationalists. They don't know what to do. They've got the businesses, but they don't really know what is useful work experience. Sorry, Andrew.
Yeah, I think there's a key word you've used there. It's that they're a business, and we within this sector need to be business led. We have an economy that's going through recovery. Businesses have survived, they're going to revive, and soon they're going to thrive. And it's for us to work collaboratively in a business-led sense to celebrate, you know, their organisations uniquely, and to be, as we've a common theme in this morning's conversation has been, be creative and work alongside in partnership with any business of any size in the borough to mobilise and take advantage of the unique opportunity that they've got right now, and you know, this summer ahead and into the next 12 months, because there's no better time to engage locally, to recruit locally, to offer an opportunity locally, and to benefit from what's in the local environment in terms of employment skills.
Absolutely. Ali, you're going to say something, I think.
No, I've had a young
Oh,
person
I'm sorry.
join me, so I'm just sorry. No.
I mean, I think that in terms of taking this part forward, I'm very interested in. I'm a patron member of the chamber, and I know Forbes will be fascinated by this, and perhaps we could look at setting something up, because it would certainly benefit me. So I'd be keen to do that. Are there? We now have 5 minutes left, and then exactly we will be stopping absolutely on time. So, are there any points that any of you are burning to get across that we haven't covered, or any points at all? Let's put it that way, even better. Will we put the world? Catherine Howitt, please.
Yeah, I think it's a little point which I think is just quite interesting coming through from the Job Centre, which was from the data from there, which is around when people are looking to if they're out of work and they're looking to come back into work. I think what we're finding is that people are sort of trying to go back into that same industry. And so I think some of the messages out there for us to sort of get out there is to say is don't feel constrained by your industry. Think about your core skills. Think about what wider opportunities are. There's a lot of retraining opportunities, certainly for adults at the minute. So do get in touch with your local college or your local providers, or whatever, to see about those opportunities. But don't be restricted by what you've always done. And again, it goes back to creativity and taking a bit of a leap and being bold and that sort of thing. So.
Anthony, anything from you in terms of what we've discussed, and anything that you feel we could?
Well, there was a question in the feed about what the top 3 skills are now, and I think one of the key things to emerge is this independence, which is putting even more onus on young people to have, this curiosity that Catherine Fenwick mentioned, and also potentially being working at home. Obviously, they're good at the technology and managing different devices, but young people are from an age group that they really value feedback and mentoring and much more than our generation. And so they do learn, but they do need that. And so obviously reaching out for them is important, but they are going to have to be much more independent workers than we've already been saying they should be. So I think that's one thing. Obviously communication, independence, but I'd be interested to know what other people think through the pandemic the top 3 skills might be. I know it's a very subjective thing, but
yes, Ali, what do you think of the skills that should be brought forward?
Yeah, I think Anthony's really hit on it. It's in terms of like that remote working and the challenges that brings. I think that sort of autonomy, self-regulation as well. So this is really challenging for young people in their first job, but to know when to switch off. The boundaries, I think, for all of us have blurred between work and life, and so that ability to know when to switch off and when to step away, and to be able to look after your own mental well-being. And I think that is then also reflected in the skills that we teach through the curriculum, and how we prepare young people is absolutely critical, I think. Because I think we've all felt the additional pressures of the last year in terms of ways of working. There've been some benefits, but there've been some absolute challenges too. So it's how we best prepare our young people for that as well.
Well, thank you for that, and we're going to be finishing up now, and actually that's great, because I think what we can hopefully say is that the next, if there is another education forum like this, it won't be on Zoom, but it will be live next time, and things are looking up. So I just need to say thank you all so much for participating. It's greatly appreciated, and thank you for all the comments, and lots of great comments on mentoring and other ones. And I'm sorry if we haven't answered all of them, but they're so appreciated. So with that, goodbye everyone, and thank you very, very much. Thank you.
Thank you.